Hey, what's up? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and I'm here to talk to you today about crypto, starting with our Bitcoin chart TA. All right, so Bitcoin has been trending downwards. It has been trending downwards consistently here. It actually had a retest of close to the lows here a couple hours ago, and right now it is firmly moving within this buying demand region here. It's just right above it right now. And one thing I really want to show you guys is the daily demand, right? The daily volume coming in on the weekend has been very, very weak. Even for a weekend, it's been weak. And I guess that can be explained away by the fact that it is a holiday weekend and a lot of people are turning the charts off and they're not looking at Bitcoin and they're not interested in trading. But this weak demand means that Bitcoin has been pulling into this box here where normally you would see a higher demand, and we could actually wind up seeing it break through support here at about 19,500. It's entirely possible. It looks like it's downtrending in that direction, and not much has changed over the last couple of days. RSI is very low on the daily. It's 35, not quite oversold just yet. It's got to get below 30 in order to hit the oversold. So if we take a look at the hourly though, hourly, it is right in the middle of the range at about 48 or so. So what that tells me is that we're probably going to wind up seeing a gradual decline. And again, because Monday is Labor Day, there will be no stock market opening on Monday. So there's not going to be much of a bounce coming on Monday that we would normally see if the market opens green on a normal Monday. So I expect right now Bitcoin is going to continue to downtrend through the weekend, both off of low volume and low interest as people aren't paying attention to the charts right now. We take a look at Ethereum and the Ethereum charts. I actually have this mapped out a little bit better with the support and resistance. So we have resistance here at about 2,000 or so in that range, and then we have support down here at about 1,400. So the way I see it is Ethereum is going to continue to bounce between this range. I know it's kind of a big range here, but the problem is that with the upcoming merge, we could see some continued buying going into the merge, which right now is scheduled for September 15th or so, and around that date. So we could see some bouncing up and down of the price until then. But what I wanted to actually talk about right now is the ARK Invest monthly Bitcoin report, and I've got it right here. Let me bring it up here. All right. So the ARK Invest Bitcoin monthly report. I always try to cover this whenever it comes out. This one is for August. So let's go ahead and get into some of the more important parts, some of the important takeaways that I have from this. All right, they have this Bitcoin market summary, and right now everything is neutral. So the market sentiment, on-chain activity, and macro picture are all neutral, okay? And so basically what they're reflecting here is that Bitcoin has been going sideways, which it has for the most part, because we haven't challenged the lows yet, and it's been bouncing in between ranges right now, okay? So what's really interesting and what I want you to pay attention to is they noticed the 200-week moving average. We've talked about that several times. 200-week moving average sits at about 22,680, and that's a range to always watch out for, both as a support and as a resistance. And right now, it's going to be a resistance. So if we do see Bitcoin pop up, it's going to be probably using that as a resistance level, 22,680, maybe about 700 or so. Okay, they look through the network security and the network usage and the holder behavior, and right now they're mostly neutral but slightly bullish. But really what I want to show you guys is this investor cost basis that ARK Invest has put up. Now I've looked for this metric in several other places, but the only place I can find it is in ARK Invest reports. And so what this is, they call this the investor cost basis. And so they take the realized price, which is like your average cost basis, and then they subtract that from what you could consider the minor cost basis. Okay. So what that means is that the minor cost basis is the average, or I guess you could say, of the cost that it takes for miners. So this stands at about 19,400, and this is a very important region. Something I want to highlight on my charts when we do chart TA is this investor cost basis at about 19,400. ARK Invest is predicting this to be a strong support level, and we have seen that on the charts where Bitcoin comes down to around 19,500 and then pops back up again. So this is something worth watching, this investor cost basis. But again, the only place I can find this is in the ARK Invest report. So we'll have to pay attention to that when it actually comes out. Now, they've said here, very importantly, that in Bitcoin's history, trading at the investor price usually marks a bottoming process. And so you can see here that we've already gone under that point. We can zoom in here a little bit. We've already gone under that point, and we can see here that in 2008 or 2018, in that huge bear market, it went right under that level, and it stayed under that level for a little bit. This really does remind me a lot of the realized price, because if you put this up next to a realized price, they're very similar, and in fact, it's not even that far off from the realized price, which would be about maybe $1,000 higher or so. But I'll continue to look at the realized price. This is just something I thought was very interesting. Next, I want to go ahead and talk to you here about the long and short-term cost bases. Okay, so what they're saying here is that you have the long-term holders and then you have the short-term holders. And ARK Invest has pointed out that when they cross, it's usually the sign of a bear market. Okay, so we already know that. We already know we're already in a bear market. But at this point, we could see some movement in the cost basis. And one thing I've noticed with this chart is that when it crosses under, when you have the short-term cost base cross under the long-term cost base, that's generally speaking the bear market. But when it crosses back over, so when the short-term crosses over the long-term, that is the end of the bear market. So he said, they've outlined here in 3 separate cases during the Bitcoin cycle where when it crosses out of it, when the short term crosses over the long term, that usually marks the end of the bear market. So that's something I'll be paying attention to very closely to see when that actually winds up, when that changes. Okay. All right. So also very, very, very important here. Okay. Supply held by long-term holders is on a pace to reach an all-time high. Okay. Now these long-term holders are high conviction holders, people who won't sell at a loss, generally speaking. So unlike I guess you could call them Bitcoin tourists that come in and they buy and they sell and they buy and they sell, the traders, these long-term hodlers will stay in the market, and they provide kind of like a cushion in the market, like a long-term support level. And so what they're saying right now is that it's at about 70%. So long-term holder supply constitutes 70% of total outstanding supply. That's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing, because what you see here is that they will, again, provide that support level. As this increases, I expect that Bitcoin price will also increase with it, because you have these holders which are long-term minded. They're not going to sell, and they're not going to sell tomorrow. They're going to be selling 2 or 3 years down the road. Okay, so in ARK's view, this is bullish, and I tend to agree with that. All right, next, they talk about Ethereum's proof of stake merge, right, and how that's going to be affecting Ethereum. All right, let's see here. So they're also saying that there's a neutral view of derivatives traders hedging the merge, and the reason for that is the open interest is spiking, which means that you're having those contracts, more of those contracts being opened, and that can be either bullish or bearish, because really what you have here is you have both short positions and long positions being opened, and that just kind of adds more fuel to the fire. So it adds a lot more liquidity, and you could see bigger swings. That's not surprising, honestly, because the futures traders are betting on a merge, and we've seen some huge price swings from Ethereum over the last couple of months. So they're just adding some more fuel onto the fire right now. This is, again, not bullish or bearish, but what we could see is extreme volatility. All right. Now, you have the section when they talk about the sanctions. That's something that I've talked about before on the show. They have the Tornado Cash sanctions that were put in place that the government decided, the Treasury Department decided that people who interact with Tornado Cash are going to be sanctioned. Okay, so what they're showing you here is that a majority of the deposits are actually by DeFi sources. So this, what it could potentially mean is that they're going to go ahead and sanction any entities that interact with Tornado Cash. Okay. So what then next, what they're saying here is that this enforcement though could be very tricky. Okay, and right now it's presenting a test case for Ethereum's resistance to censorship. All right, so with Ethereum's move to proof of stake, now you can have certain staking pools that decide that they don't want to interact with Tornado Cash, and then now you have censorship on the network because people who want to interact with Tornado Cash aren't going to be able to because these staking pools aren't going to allow it. And so that's kind of an issue with these larger staking pools that Ethereum is going to be having to deal with because, again, they're transitioning from the proof of work to proof of stake. All right. All right, so next they talk about the CPI, and that's something I've talked about multiple times, the Consumer Price Index. All right, and they're pointing out by the fact that it's up massively. But one thing I want to point out here with this chart is that if you'll notice, with these CPI spikes, they're always very short-term spikes for the most part. Even back in the 80s, when the levels were actually much higher than now, you only lasted maybe 2 to 3 years or so. But then it just basically came all the way back down again because the Fed wound up raising interest rates, and that's what happened in the early 80s, 1980, 1981, 1982. It came up, and then it sharply fell back down again. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. All right, they point this out because, again, this matters a lot and to the cryptocurrency price. And I'm going to get a video out in the next couple of days describing why that matters and how the CPI actually affects the Fed's decision to raise and lower interest rates and what that means for the crypto market. All right, so they're talking about home inventories. That's not necessarily as important here. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to show you guys for this. That's my takeaways from the Bitcoin monthly report. Right now, I think the overall take on this is it's very neutral. I'd almost say cautiously optimistic. But that being said, some of the metrics they outlined point towards a potential continuation of the bear market. And I expect a continuation of the bear market for the foreseeable future. So right now, this has not changed my investment strategy. I will continue to DCA into Bitcoin and Ethereum at regular intervals. But this is just fantastic information. If you guys are interested in seeing this report, you can download it off of ARK's website. I definitely recommend you come through and just take a look at it. And it's available for free. You don't have to sign up for an account or anything. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. If you like this content, please let me know. Please like and subscribe, and also follow me on Twitter. I greatly appreciate that. This is Cody the Coin Raptor, signing out.